The Act 2 Mercenary is by far the most commonly used mercenary in the entire game. Today I will show you all the best rune words that we can use on Emilio, and I will also tell you which ones I personally suggest for different stages of the game. Let's begin with the helms. One of the best rune word of this list in my opinion is Cure. It gives 5% maximum life with some faster hit recovery and poison resist, but the most important thing it does is giving the cleansing aura. Level 1 Cleansing Aura reduces the duration of poisons and curses by 39%. My favorite build in the game is Nova Sorceress, and the only elemental type that goes through Energy Shield is Poison. So that's why I always use the Cure Helm on Emilio when I play Nova Sorceress. It makes the biggest weakness of my build completely irrelevant. And the best part is that you only need Chile, Yo, and Tal runes to make it, which are all very easy to find. Another helm you can make is Hearth. It gives very similar stats than Cure, but instead of Poison Resist, you get Cold Resist, and instead of Cleansing Aura, you get the Can't Be Frozen stat. So if you would prefer Emilio to have the Can't Be Frozen stat instead of Cleansing Aura, this rune word is a very good option. And you only need Chile, Yo, and Tall runes to make it. And the last helm of the list is Bulwark. This is a very good rune word, especially if you have the Can't Be Frozen stat on another item like Duriel Shell. You get lifesteal with damage reduction and 30 replenished life, which is basically a regeneration of 30 life every 5 seconds. So this is a very defensive rune word, and while it's not best in slot, it's one of the best budget helm you can get for your mercenary for Nightmare and Hell difficulties. And the runes you need are only Shell, Yo, and Soul, which are all very easy to get from Nightmare Countess. Now, armors. One of the easiest one to make is Smoke. It only requires Nef and Lum, and it gives 75 enhanced defense, 280 defense against missiles, 20 faster hit recovery, and a huge 50 all resist. One of the biggest reasons why mercenaries die in Hell difficulty is simply because they don't have enough resistances, and Smoke solves that problem immediately. Another easy rune word to make is Lionheart. It gives 20 enhanced damage with 25 to strength, 20 to vitality, 15 to dex, 50 to life, and 30 all resist. So it's all a very good balance of offense and defense, and you only need Hell, Lum, and Foul runes, which are all very easy to find from the Countess. Now one of the most popular mercenary armors in the entire game. Treachery. It gives 45 increased attack speed, so your mercenary will attack much faster, which means a lot more damage. And a lot more damage also means a lot more lifesteal. So Emilio will not only be much stronger, but also much harder to kill. And it also has 5% chance to cast level 15 Fade when struck, which gives a huge bonus of 60 all resist and 15% physical damage reduction. One thing I really like about Treachery is that when Fade activates, it stays active for 5 minutes. So even if your mercenary stops getting hit, it will continue benefiting from the extra resist and damage reduction for quite some time. A lot of players make this rune word around the required level of 43, and they end up never replacing it because it's just that good. And the best part is that you can make it with only a Shal, Tol, and Lem runes. So this is by far one of the best rune word in the game for the runes it requires. By the way, only about 8% of my viewers are subscribed to my channel. So if you like my videos, please click on the subscribe button. That would mean a lot to me. Thank you so much for your support. Next we have Duress. This is a very offensive oriented armor with 10 to 20 enhanced damage, some cold damage, 33% chance of open wounds, and most importantly, the 15% chance of Crushing Blow. Crushing Blow removes a percentage of an enemy's remaining life, which makes it especially effective against bosses like Mephisto, Diablo, and Bell. So if your mercenary spends a lot of time attacking bosses, you will definitely notice the extra damage. And it also gives some resist and 40 faster hit recovery. I generally prefer Treachery, but overall, this is still a very good armor if you have the rune to make it. Then, Stone. This is the rune word with the highest amount of enhanced defense with up to 290. It also has 60 faster hit recovery, which is the highest amount you can get in the entire game on a single item. On top of that, you also get defense against missiles with some strength, vitality, and 15 all resist. This armor will not increase your mercenary's damage, but if your goal is to just keep him alive, this is an excellent option. And you need Shal, Pull, and Lum to make it, which you can all get from Nightmare and Hell Countess. Now my favorite armor in the game for Emilio. Fortitude. This is an absolutely crazy armor, both offensively and defensively. It gives 300% enhanced damage bonus to your mercenary, and defensively, it gives 20% chance to cast level 15 chilling armor when struck, which increases Emilio's defense by almost 200%. Also a big bonus to life, which is between 1 to 1.5 per level, and between 25 and 30 all resist. So this is an extremely good armor all around. The only downside is that you need a low rune to make it, which might be a challenge to get. I generally use Treachery on my mercenary until I get my hands on a low rune, and then instantly switch to Fortitude and I never replace it. Another very good armor for the endgame is Chains of Honor. It does not increase your mercenary's damage output like Fortitude or Treachery, but in return you get 8 lifesteal, some damage reduction, and a huge bonus of 65 all resist. If you don't really mind your mercenary's damage and you only want him to be around and survive at all costs, Chains of Honor is the better option. But I believe that overall, while Chains of Honor is very good, Fortitude is a much better and cheaper option. And you need Dole, Bear, and Is to make it, which makes it one of the most expensive runeword in the entire game. And the last armor on this list, Bramble. It gives 50 faster hit recovery with 100% poison resist, which are both very high bonuses, but the most important stat on this runeword is the level 15 to 21 Thorns aura. This aura is extremely useful for a summoned necromancer. The entire skeleton army will reflect a huge amount of damage to every enemies hitting them. It requires Ral, Sur, and Eth, which can be very hard to find, but if you enjoy the playstyle of staying back and looking at your minions do all the work, you should really consider making this runeword. Now, the weapons. Let's start with one of the first runeword we can make in the game. Malice. This is obviously not an endgame runeword at all, but it can be very strong around level 15 if you don't want to spend too much time grinding to find a weapon for your mercenary. 33 enhanced damage, 9 to max damage, and 100% chance of open wounds. That can make a very basic low level F base very powerful until you find an upgrade. You only need Ith, L, and Eth runes, so you should be able to find them all in only a few contest runs. Then we have Strength. This is another early game weapon and it has a required level of only 25. It increases Emilio's damage by 35% and gives some lifesteal with strength and vitality, which are all very good for a low level mercenary, but the most important thing is the 25% crushing blow. This is very useful against bosses and enemies with a big amount of life. Again, if you don't feel like grinding to find a good weapon for Emilio, this one requires only Am and Tier, so it's very easy to make. Next, Honor. This is also a weapon runeword that you can make relatively early in the game like Strength, but it's actually much stronger. It gives 160 enhanced damage with 9 to minimum and max damage, 7 lifesteal, 250 attack rating, and 25 deadly strike. It requires Am, L, Ith, Tyr, and Soul, which are all quite simple to find, but the major downside is that you need a base with 5 open sockets, and it might take quite some time to find one. And while this runeword seems very strong, especially for a required level of only 27, it is massively overshadowed by the next one, Insight. This is one of the most iconic and commonly used runeword in the entire game for Act 2 mercenaries. It gives level 12 to 17 meditation aura, which gives massive mana regeneration. It completely eliminates mana problems for characters like Sorceress, Hammerdins, Javazons, Bone Necromancers, and many more. And on top of that, it also gives very high bonus to enhance damage with attack rating, critical strike, and some magic find. So not only this weapon has a huge utility with the meditation aura, but it also makes your mercenary very strong if you make it in a high level F base. It only requires Ral, Tyr, Tal, and Soul, which are all very easy to get from the normal and nightmare countess. So if you need mana regeneration, you should absolutely make this runeword in the first base that you find to benefit from the meditation aura as soon as possible, and simply remake it whenever you find a stronger base. Insight is very similar to Spirit in the sense that it requires very easy to find runes, and it gives absolutely massive power in return. And even though it has a required level of only 27, this weapon is best in slot for Act 2 mercenaries for a lot of different builds. And if you don't need the meditation aura, Obedience is one of the strongest damage upgrade you can make. It gives a ton of very useful stuff. 40 faster hit recovery, a huge 370 enhanced damage, 20 to 30 all resist, and 40% chance of crushing blow. It also has 30% chance to cast level 21 enchant when Emilio kills an enemy, which gives a little bit under 100 fire damage per attack with a 200% bonus to attack rating, and it lasts about 10 minutes. It only requires Hel, Ko, Tul, Et, and Fal, which are all very easy to find, so it's one of the most powerful and underrated weapon runeword you can make without having to pay an arm and a leg. And talking of paying an arm and a leg, Infinity. This is one of the most powerful runeword in the entire game. A level 12 Conviction Aura reduces enemies' defense by 83% and resistances by 85%. So it's extremely strong to have on your mercenary for many builds like Nova Sorceress, Javazons, Assassins, and many more. It also gives a very high amount of up to 325 enhanced damage with 40% chance of crushing blow, prevent monster heal, a ton of vitality, and some magic find. The only downsides of having Infinity on a mercenary is that the minus enemy light resist will not work on the damage done by the player. And also it's one of the most expensive runeword to make with Bear, Mal, Bear, and Ist. But even then, it remains one of the best runeword you can make if you want to increase your damage output. Next is another runeword that gives a very good aura. Pride. Concentration Aura gives a massive increase in physical damage. This is a very good rune word for characters that focus mainly on physical damage, like a Boazon, Summon Necromancer, or Summon Druid. It also gives 20% chance of Deadly Strike and some light damage but no enhanced damage bonus. So overall, with this rune word, you pretty much sacrifice your mercenary's physical damage in exchange for dramatically increasing your own damage. It requires Cham, Sur, Yo, and Lo, but even though it's quite expensive, it's definitely worth it, especially for an endgame Boazon. And the last rune word of the list is Breath of the Dying. Instead of providing a very useful aura like Infinity or Pride, BOTD turns Emilio into an absolute monster. It gives up to 400 enhanced damage, a huge 60 increased attack speed, up to 15 lifesteal, 30 all attributes, and prevent monster heal. Breath of the Dying made in an Eth War Pike is the weapon with the highest damage in the entire game. It's quite expensive to make with Vex, Hell, L, Zod, and Eth, but if you don't need auras and simply want your mercenary to do as much damage as possible, BOTD is one of the best options in the game. Among all the rune words I showed you today, by far my favorite build on Emilio for my endgame Nova Sorceress is this. Insight and a net pressure for the meditation aura and very high damage, with fortitude to make my mercenary as tanky as possible while also greatly increasing his damage, and the cure helm for the very important cleansing aura. I'm very curious to know what is your endgame setup for your Act 2 mercenary, so feel free to share your favorite rune words for Emilio in the comments. And also please let me know in the comments if you think I should have included some other rune words in the list. I will make a lot more informative videos like this in the future, so be sure to subscribe to not miss any uploads. Massive thanks to the channel members for supporting the channel. Thank you so much for all the support, and thanks to all of you for watching this video until the end, and as always, happy grinding.